Hi Yogi, and welcome to another Slow Flow with me, Oceana. In this episode, we'll be exploring the third foundation of mindfulness as taught by the Buddha. If you weren't here for the last 2 weeks, then I will link those videos here for you because they do provide just a little bit more context on the topic. And the third foundation, of course, is Cittasati, which is mindfulness of the mind. Again, I will try to give you some very practical ways in which we can sort of explore this through our yoga practice. And the class, of course, again, will be a yang to yin style class. So we'll be starting with those very fiery yang postures that are challenging, standing and balancing poses. A lot of strengthening work, which really challenges our mind in a certain way that might sometimes lead to us swearing internally at our yoga teacher. I have been there, don't worry. I don't take it personally. And then towards the end of practice, we'll move towards some yin postures, which will hold for longer periods of time. And again, that can have a very different set of challenges for our mind to stay within the pose and to not sort of fidget around too much, but to actually settle in and allow the sensations to happen in the body. So for the yin postures, the only thing you might need are a blanket and a yoga belt. If you don't have those at home, I will link a video here for you that will teach you how to substitute them. And we'll be starting on our mat in a seated position, so join me there when you're ready. So we'll be opening our practice with a short meditation, and before we begin, I just want to make sure that you're actually going to choose a way of sitting that is truly comfortable to you. So don't just sit cross-legged because you think that's how you should meditate. Some of you might prefer to sit in a chair and possibly even elevate and lift your feet slightly on top of some books or blocks so that you create a perfect 90-degree angle of your legs. For some of you, you may want to sit on the floor, but choose to lift your sitting bones. In my case, I'm going to use a rolled up blanket. The idea of sitting higher is that we bring our hips above the knees. And if you're sitting cross-legged, usually that means lifting the hips a little bit higher. My general preference for meditation is to bring my heels in one line, which sort of gives me a triangular base that's quite comfortable. However, this requires a lot of external rotation of the hips and it's not particularly accessible to most people. Another pose that I actually use quite frequently, especially if I'm sitting for a long period of time and one of my legs has gone to sleep or I've got pins of needles, is that I'll lean slightly to one side and extract that leg in front of me with the knee bent. The other leg is bent towards the opposite sitting bone, and you can still have the hands fairly relaxed here. And actually you can often see the Buddha depicted in this pose. I think normally it's referred to as either Taro or Tao pose. And you can do this with both legs as well. So you could have both knees bent, and this might help you really sit with as much length in the spine as you can. So from here, make your choice. Plant the hands on top of your knees or thighs with the palms facing towards the ground. Let the crown of your head lengthen upwards towards the ceiling. Close the eyes if you can, otherwise find a focal point on the floor in front of you. Allow your peripheral vision to widen so that you sort of gently soften or blur your eyes. See if you can imagine somebody behind you placing their hands on top of your shoulders, just giving them a gentle amount of weight, drawing them away from your ears. And then find your sitting bones. So for most of us, that means initially just leaning back slightly, grounding the sitting bones down, and from there lengthening the spine upwards. Gently tucking the chin in towards the chest so that your forehead and chin are in one line and the back of the neck is long. And from here, initially just let your breath settle, let your mind settle in, let your body adjust. So give yourself a few rounds of breath in which you gently lengthen the breath by simply lingering towards the end of each exhale and the end of each inhale. If you can, directing the breath towards your belly as you breathe in. So really let the belly expand and soften outwards. Once you feel sort of vaguely settled, see if you can bring your attention to the mind. And the practice here is really for you to become an objective observer of your own mind. So see if you can almost sort of retract away from your thoughts, as if you're sort of looking at them in a sort of criminal lineup at the police station. Your thoughts can't see you, it's a two-way mirror, but you can see them. And you're just sort of observing them as they pass along. So notice if you've got any particular trails of thoughts, maybe you can spot some patterns going on. Your thoughts might be focused on the type of day that you've had before you got onto your yoga mat. Possibly your thoughts are actually more towards the future, so you might be thinking about the practice that is ahead of us. Maybe you're excited or filled with trepidation, anxiety, wondering how hard you'll have to work, how challenging it's going to be. Maybe looking forward to the joys of movement. So really see if you can sort of have a detective's eye, spotting any particular trends in your thoughts. And as much as possible, don't allow yourself to get involved in the thoughts. So if there's a particular thought that really grabs your attention, see if you can just notice it and almost like a cloud, let it pass, let it move along the line, rather than diving too deep into that thought and spinning a narrative. Then just observe your thoughts for your final few moments here. See if you can pay attention to all of those things. Gently, when you're ready, blink the eyes open if they're closed. Find a fixed focal point on the floor in front of you to bring your attention back into the room. If you're still sat on a chair, then make your way to the floor. If you're sat on top of a blanket or bolster, then remove that here. If you were sitting cross-legged, then swap the leg that's in front. So for most of us, we usually tend to choose our more comfortable version, and then now we've got to work into our less comfortable variation. Hands on top of the knees. As you exhale here, we'll run through a couple rounds of seated cat-cow. So exhale to roll onto the backs of your sitting bones. Let the spine round back, let your shoulders roll forward, the chin draw towards the chest. On an inhale, rolling onto the fronts of the sitting bones, lifting the spine upwards towards the ceiling, almost that sense that you're pulling the chest between your arms and lifting the eyes. Finding 4 more rounds here on our own, exhaling to round back. Inhaling to lift up towards the sky, maybe lifting our eyes. And possibly working from one end of the spine all the way through the vertebra to come to the opposite end. So seeing if you can make that a smooth movement and transition. We'll make this our final round, no rush to finish. When you next come back from an arched position, we'll meet in the center. We'll lift the arms out and overhead as we inhale. Interlace the fingers above the head, spin your palms towards the ceiling, and then lift up for a moment, really reaching through your hands, lengthen the sides of the waist, Allow the shoulders to soften away from the ears. Turn from your belly button to face the left side as you exhale. Release the hands either side of your knee. Bring the chest forward. Press back through your hands to ground the right sitting bone. Inhale to lift up. Interlace the hands the unusual way, so opposite pinky finger on the outside. Lengthen up, palms towards the ceiling. Grow tall. Soften the shoulders, turn from your belly button to the right as you exhale. Release the hands, fold over your right knee, press your left sitting bone down. Inhale, lift the arms, come back through center. Exhale, this time release the hands over to the left side. You can have the left hand behind you, right hand towards the outside of the knee. Lengthen the spine upwards as you breathe in. On the exhale, see if you can roll your left shoulder back. The right rib cage moves to the left side. So finding a gentle twist. Early days in our practice, so be gentle with the spine. Find a few rounds of breath here, lifting with each inhale and twisting with the exhale. On your next inhale, come back through center, lift the arms. Exhale over to the second side. Again, right hand could be behind you, left hand might reach across to the knee. You might stay sitting really tall. This might be already enough of a twist here at the beginning. Possibly some of you are looking to reach that right shoulder back. Bring the left rib cage forward. Staying for a few rounds of breath to work into the pose or simply stay. On an inhale, coming back through center, lift the arms. Exhale to plant the hands behind you. Lean into your hands to extract the legs in front of you. Maybe keep the big toes on the floor, possibly hands underneath the knees. Legs might be straight, maybe the arms float. Your version of boat pose. And then gently, when you're ready, swap the leg that's in front. So this will be our more comfortable version. Hands back on top of the knees. This time we'll try to roll the rib cage around the hips. So we'll try to circle the ribs. And we'll start with one particular direction here. Finding as much of that movement as you can. So really see if you can make that circle a little bit more expansive over time. And then reverse the circles a few times. Again, maybe this side is a little bit more sticky. Again, most of us have a tendency to go to the side that is easier, which is an interesting tendency to observe in our human body. And then when you're ready, find stillness in the center. Lift the arms again overhead. On an exhale, release the left hand down by the side of your hip. You can soften the lower elbow, really reach the right fingertips across. And then press into your bottom hand to ground your right sitting bone into the floor, getting you a deep, deep stretch along the right side of the body. Use your top arm as you breathe in to come back to center, over to the other side. So right hand to the floor, pressing through the bottom hand, ground the left sitting bone, and then reach your left fingertips in the opposite direction to create space and length along the left side of the body. Keep your chest lifted upwards. So left shoulder moves slightly back. And inhale, come back through center. Again, plant the hands behind you. Lean into your sitting bones to extract the legs. Find whichever version of boat pose worked for you in the first round. And then see if you can come all the way onto your lower back. Straighten the legs towards the front. Now, the higher you have your legs, the easier it is. The lower your legs go, the harder it is to keep your lower back connected. And then bend both knees into the chest, hands underneath the knees. Use your legs to build a little bit of momentum as you rock forwards and back to release the spine. And if again you want to join me in transitioning this into our chair pose, then plant your feet at the front of the mat. Come all the way up into that invisible chair behind you. Lift through the chest, spin the pinky fingers in, draw the sitting bones a little bit more down and back. On an exhale, folding all the way down into the legs for Uttanasana. Standing forward bend, separate your feet hip distance. Lengthen the spine halfway as you inhale, reach crown of the head forward, shoulders back. And exhale, fold back into the legs. Give your head a little shake. No. Maybe a little nod, yes. Release tension in the neck if you can. Let the knees soften so the belly relaxes onto the thighs. And then with your next inhale, plant the hands underneath the shoulders. Step your left foot all the way back. Bring the knee to the floor. Inhale to find Anjaneyasana, low lunge on the first side. Maybe walk your right foot a little bit forward if you need to. The back knee could go a little bit further back. Let the hips soften forward and down. Lift up through the chest. Relax the shoulders. Spin the pinky fingers in towards each other. Stay for a few rounds of breath. Let me tie my hair up while we're here. And gently from here, reach your fingers and hips back. Lift the front toes and then reach your chest forward if you can. On an inhale, rebend your front knee, lift the arms, lift the back knee, pressing into the top of your back foot. Exhale, release the arms and knee down. Inhale, float the knee and arms back up. Final time moving here with the breath. Find that high lunge variation and then lean your body weight forward just so you can spin the back heel down and open the arms up into warrior two. Find your alignment, so track the front knee over second and third toe, press into the outer edge of the back foot. Reach your knuckles forward and back as you soften the fingertips. Take the eyes forward. Release the back hand to the back thigh. Reach the right fingertips up and overhead to find your reverse warrior. Inhale back through warrior two, front forearm, front thigh. Left arm up and overhead with the pinky finger edge down. So you come into your extended side angle pose. Still bending generously into the front knee. Lifting through the center of the chest, so allowing your left shoulder to roll back. Maybe lifting the eyes, and for some of you, maybe bottom hand could easily come to the floor. Release your top hand all the way down. Come onto the ball of the back foot, reach the right fingertips up. Coming into a simple high lunge twist, press into the heel of your back foot. You can bring your right hand to the right hip. Possibly some of you might like to stay here. Others, take your eyes forward, walk your fingertips in front, and then shift your body weight into the front leg. Lift your back foot and flex the toes, pressing the heel away from you. Crown of the head moving in opposite direction, finding your revolved half moon, possibly reaching the fingertips of your right hand back towards the ceiling and spinning the chest to the right side. Our Parivrita Ardha Chandrasana. On an exhale, looking down at your bottom thumb, plant your left foot to the back of the mat. Take your body weight into the left leg as you bring the hands back to the center of the chest. Right toes lift, maybe the leg is straight. You could stay in this tall version of Skandasana, or possibly you're lowering your left sitting bone towards the heel for the lower variation. And once you arrive, see if you can gather your breath for a few moments. Let the center of your chest lift so you're creating length in the spine and through the front body. Now we'll slowly transition this back to our front leg. So take your eyes forward, rebend your right knee, point the right toes to the front, turn to face the front of your mat as you draw the left knee into the chest and lift the arms. A brief pause here, coming into our Hasta Padangusthasana variation, simply to bend the standing leg and cross the left knee over the bottom leg. So I'll show you this from the front. You just want to bend the bottom knee and then cross the leg. So almost as if you're coming to sit cross-legged. You can keep the left toes on the floor. If you draw your sitting bones a little bit further down and back, you might be able to float the foot or hook it around the back of your calf. Reach the arms out by your side, bring the right elbow on top of the left. Maybe hold on to the backs of your shoulder blades, possibly backs of the hands touch, or you double bind the palms in front of your face. From here, as your sitting bones draw a little bit further down and back, your fingertips lift a little bit higher. So really opening that space between the shoulder blades, seeing if you can direct the breath into that area for a few rounds without losing your balance ideally, but of course it happens, so don't worry. When you're ready, unravel the arms, keep the legs as they are. Allow your right hand to drop down to the side of your hip. Keep the eyes towards the floor, reach the left fingertips across into a gentle side bend. Now from here, I'll turn to the side again. Or lift the right arm up, coming through center, drawing the left knee into the chest. On an exhale, float the left leg back. Hands could be underneath your shoulders or possibly by the sides of your hips in Warrior 3. Press your left heel back. Spin the left pinky toe towards the ground and reach the crown of the head in the opposite direction. Maybe straighten the bottom leg. Maybe you're working on your balance. Notice what your mind is doing here. Is it actually quite still and focused? As we transition out of this, some of you might like the hands to be on the floor again for support. Otherwise, bend both of your knees generously. Plant your left foot to the right edge of your mat and slowly lower all the way back onto your sitting bones. You should end up with your left heel towards the right sitting bone and the right foot on top in front of the shin bone. You can keep the legs exactly like this if this is manageable. Otherwise, bring your right foot across the thigh for full Matsyendrasana, or Ardha Matsyendrasana actually, half Lord of the Fishes pose. Find the weight of your body in the sitting bones. If your sitting bones are slightly off kilter here, then use your rolled up blanket or bolster to find a little bit more height and length in the spine. Breathe in as you lift your right arm up and sweep that behind your right sitting bone. Lengthen left arm up as you inhale. Either wrap the arm around your top knee or possibly hook the elbow across the thigh. Either keep this sort of high five position or bring index finger and thumb to touch for Jnana Mudra. Lengthen up as you breathe in and exhale to twist. So see again if you can work with the breath to find this pose in your body. Maybe close the eyes. It can help you sort of connect into the tissue around the spine and the sensations that are happening within the back body. So that we don't over twist, we don't go too deep here. When you're ready, as you inhale, turn to face forward. Plant your hands over to the left side. Forehead towards the ground as you bow down to derotate the spine and inhale to lift back up. Plant the hands behind your sitting bones so that again you can extract the legs in front of you, finding your version of boat pose. Lifting through the chest. Find a few moments to breathe and smile at your big toes. And then gently here, we'll draw the left knee in towards the chest, the right leg goes forward as we lower onto our lower back. Keep reaching your hands forward, keep the shoulders and head lifted off the ground. Now again, the higher the right leg is lifted, the easier it is. And of course, the lower you hover the leg, the harder. Keep drawing the left knee in towards you. Find the last few moments to breathe here in your lower boat pose. Don't let your mind get too crazy here. I know it's hard, I know it's a struggle, but you can do it. Slowly lift the right leg all the way up, plant the hands, palms facing towards the floor, either side of your hips. Bring your left foot down very, very close to your left sitting bone. You might even shimmy a little bit closer. And then pressing down into your hands and left foot as you inhale, reach your right big toe towards the ceiling, press through your glutes and exhale to lower down. We'll do that 2 more times. Inhale to lift up and exhale to come down. Final time, move with your breath. And we'll meet with our lower back firmly on the floor. We'll bend both knees into the chest, supporting the backs of the knees with the hands as we slowly roll through the spine a few times here, building momentum. And when you're ready, plant the feet at the front of the mat. Find chair pose, Utkatasana. Of course, you can meet us here any which way. On an exhale, fold back into the legs. Separate the feet, hip distance if they're not already. Lengthen the spine halfway, crown of the head moving forward, hips and shoulders moving back. Exhale, fold back into the legs. Allow yourself a moment to gather the breath. And plant the hands underneath your shoulders. This time, step your right foot back. Find your low lunge, Anjaneyasana. As you inhale, lift the arms. Take a moment to breathe here for the hips to move forward and down, to lift through the chest, but soften the shoulders. On an exhale, take your fingertips and the hips back. Maybe lift your left toes as you draw the chest forward towards your front big toe for half splits, Ardha Hanumanasana. On an inhale, rebend the front knee, plant the left foot to the floor as you reach the arms up and lift the back knee. Into high lunge variation on the second side. Exhale, bring the hands and knee down. Inhale, lift up. Final time, move with your own breath through this variation. And then lean your body weight forward just so that you can spin the back heel down and windmill the arms open into Warrior Two. Press equally into both feet as you find your alignment. And then see if you can connect the front body to the spine. So draw the rib cage in, control that flaring out. Back hand to the back thigh. Left fingertips up and overhead. Keep the bend on your left knee as you reverse the warrior. Inhale to come forward. Front forearm, front thigh. Right fingertips overhead. Parshvakonasana on the second side. Again, possibly staying here so that you can really focus on lifting through the chest, pressing your bottom elbow away from you. Maybe some of you would like to take the eyes towards the ceiling or the bottom hand to the floor. Your final few rounds of breath here. When you're ready, plant the right hand underneath its own shoulder. Lift onto the ball of your back foot. Take your left fingertips up towards the sky into a twisted high lunge. Now, if you're going further, left hand to the left hip, right fingertips in front, slowly taking your body weight into the left leg so that you can maybe lift the right foot. Finding your revolving triangle, possibly lifting the left arm up towards the ceiling. And then if you have a little bit more space, crown of the head moves forward as the right leg lifts back. Finding a few moments to breathe here. On an exhale, let your eyes drift towards the floor. Plant your right heel to the back of the mat. Cartwheel the arms to take them with you as you begin to straighten the left leg and lift the toes. Now, either stay in this tall version or possibly let your right heel lift towards your right sitting bone to find a low version of Skandasana, our side lunge. Let the eyes travel towards the front of the mat. Lengthen the spine. Now we're about to transition back into the front leg. So take your eyes forward first, then bend your left knee, plant the toes to point to the front of the yoga mat as you reach forward, drawing the right knee into the chest and coming up to stand in Hasta Padangusthasana with the knee in the chest. Slowly step your right foot towards the left edge of the mat. Bend the knees generously, draw the sitting bones down and back. Preparing for eagle pose on the second side. So this time, left elbow comes on top of the right. Maybe reaching the hands back towards the shoulder blades. Possibly backs of the hands touch, or you're double binding the palms in front of your face again. Now reach your fingertips up, sink the sitting bones a little bit further down and back. And for some of you, maybe floating the right foot or tucking it behind your left calf. Really seeing if you can find that opening in the backs of the shoulder blades. Possibly finding the balance. And then finding a few moments to breathe here, to quiet the mind. Finding complete stillness in body and mind if you can. On an inhale, reach the arms up, plant your right foot to the floor. Left hand comes down by the sides of the hip. Right arm reaches across into the side bend. Inhale, float your left arm back up, come through center as you lift the right knee into the chest. And exhale, take the hands back, take your right leg back. Find warrior three. You have to step a little bit further back here. For some of you, you might like to have the hands under the shoulders, or finding that balance by lifting one hand at a time, pressing the right heel back, turning your pinky toe towards the ground as the crown of the head moves further forward. Maybe bottom leg wants to straighten. As we transition, again, you might like the hands on the floor for support. Wherever you are, we bend both knees generously, planting the ball of the right foot to the left edge of the yoga mat and slowly making our way all the way onto the sitting bones with control. Now, as a reminder, you'll want to have your right heel towards the opposite sitting bone. Left foot could be in front of the shin or all the way across the thigh. On an inhale, lift up, lengthen through the left side of the waist. Spin the left hand behind you for support. Reach up through the right fingertips. Either wrap the right arm around the top knee or hook it across the thigh. Keep this high five position or index finger and thumb touch for Jnana Mudra. Again, if your sitting bones are slightly uneven, remind yourself to lift up onto a prop. Otherwise, as you breathe in, find the ground underneath you, that support. Lift up through the crown of the head. Lengthen the spine as you breathe in. On the exhale, let that left shoulder move back. Right rib cage rolls forward to find your version of the twist. And then working into that twist for a few rounds here. Working with the breath to find a different version of the pose as you progress into it. As you unwind, breathing in, face the front first. Take both hands over to the right side of your body. Bow your forehead towards the floor briefly. De-rotate the spine and inhale to come back up. Plant the hands behind your sitting bones to unravel the legs. Again, find your version of boat pose. Find a few rounds of breath. Don't let the tension come all the way into your face if you can help it. If you need to, give yourself a smile. Draw the right knee into the chest, slowly lower down onto your lower back. Again, optional to keep the left leg lifted, shoulders and head stay up. Possibly left leg lowers just an inch or two above the ground. Right knee draws as much as you can towards your right shoulder as you reach your fingertips a little bit further forward. We stay for our final few rounds of breath here. I know it's difficult, but if you can, keep your mind focused on the actions of the pose, pressing the lower back down, finding your final few moments of breath here. And then lift your left leg, right foot to the floor. Release the shoulders and head down. Spin your palms to the ground, either sides of the hips. Again, walk as much as possible your right sitting bone towards the heel. You can even grab hold of the outer edges of your yoga mat if that's helpful. On an inhale, we press into the right foot and the hands to lift the hips, reaching our left big toe to the ceiling, and exhale to release down. Do that 2 more times as you inhale, reaching up, and exhale, release. Final one here. We'll meet back on our lower back side, hugging the knees in towards ourselves, having a little rock side to side. maybe sighing it out a few times. So taking a deep inhale. On the exhale, make a soft sound. I'll do that 2 more times. Deep, deep breath in. Exhale. Final time here. Now we'll prepare for the yin portion of our practice, and if you have your blanket rolled up, you might like to just briefly double fold that and make sure that you can have it underneath your head. You'll want your belt somewhere close by. And if, like me, you've got your hair tied up, then you'll just want to release that so that you can really bring the back of your head onto the floor for support. Now, have your feet flat on the mat with the knees bent to begin with, and we'll grab our belt. Now, as always, I've got this unlooped. I'm going to place the middle of the belt around the ball of my foot, so I'm not coming into the midfoot, but very much the ball of the foot. I'm going to relax my elbows all the way onto the floor. Now, for all of these variations, you can keep the opposite leg bent. If you do want to go a little bit further, you can slowly walk the foot away from you, possibly straighten the right leg entirely. To begin with, we'll have both ends of the belt in our left hand. We'll turn the left elbow in towards our ribcage, spinning the palm up towards our face, and the right hand is going to rest on top of the right hip. Gently from here, turn your left toes towards the left side and let the leg follow. So you might find that you are only moving a couple of centimeters. That's perfectly acceptable. If you're going quite far and it's becoming a little bit difficult to hold the leg there, you can walk your hand a little bit further up the belt to help you have a little bit more control. But ideally, you really want to use your right hand to firmly plant your right hip on the ground so that you're only really working into your true flexibility. You're not sort of, putting the hips out of alignment to get there. And also that grounding for those of you who are less flexible. The right hip here is the fixed part of the pose. So the more you can ground that down, usually the more space you have for your left leg to open out. We'll just find our final few moments to breathe here, allowing the breath and the mind to just settle down for our yin practice. When you're ready, lifting the leg back into center, splitting the belt into both hands. Again, you can relax your elbows down. If you're working with a bent knee, then at this point you could start working towards a straight leg if you prefer. For those of you going a little bit further, you can walk the hands towards the foot and then draw the elbows away from each other as the leg comes in towards you. Again, we stay for a few rounds of breath, so make sure you've relaxed your shoulders onto the floor. And as we sort of settle into these longer holds, see what happens to your mind. So for a lot of us, actually, we tend towards a more active practice in order to keep our mind quiet. Because if we give our body a lot to do, a lot for the mind to focus on, especially in these challenging balancing postures, it actually shuts our brain up, which for some of us is a really nice change of pace, isn't it? And then we get into these longer holds and that becomes very difficult because there's less to focus on. There's less taking your attention away from what is happening. And so sometimes at this point in practice, you might find that these thoughts that you observed at the beginning of class are coming back. When you're ready, if you've drawn the leg close to you, ease away, switch the belt into your right hand. This time take your left thumb and place it into the hip crease and then turn the hip out to the side. So almost pushing the hip down towards the front of the mat. From there, let your left heel move across, and you can allow the foot to come all the way down, maybe shifting a little bit more firmly onto your right hip. And you can take the left arm out to the side or into cactus arms, possibly using your right arm to draw that foot a little bit closer towards yourself. And then soften the eyes if you can. Let your left shoulder be heavy towards the ground. And again, if you can, just observe the mind. See what particular thoughts are there. Are they the same thoughts as the beginning of practice, or are they slightly different here? Maybe you're particularly focused on the sensations of your postures in these longer holds. That can really direct a lot of attention or command a lot of attention if the sensations are very strong. But you might have noticed that for some of us it's quite hard to actually clear the mind of thoughts. And after having spent a lot of time studying mindfulness and mindfulness meditation, my sort of favorite analogy to go to is really that of an untrained puppy. So that difference in your mind is really before you understand mindfulness practices and before you sort of develop your meditation practice, it's almost like when you first get that puppy, he's not sleeping through the night, he's weeing all over the carpet, chewing up shoes, just completely out of control and unruly. And when we start to develop mindfulness, it's sort of like puppy training for your mind. And I think it's always interesting, you have a lot of yogis out there who have been practicing for decades. And, you know, they really have trained their physical body to peak performance level, but they have not really paid the same amount of attention to training their mind in that way. And for me, it really took my physical practice to a new level. So I hope this introduction maybe just sparks your curiosity a little bit. Gently, when you're ready, bend your left knee generously, come all the way onto your back side. Plant both feet to the ground, bend your knees up towards the ceiling. Just give your body a moment to rest in the center. Let the hands come onto your belly. Let the shoulders relax. Just for a moment, really feel the difference between the left and right side of your body. Then gently, when you're ready, draw right knee into the chest. For most of us, this might be our more flexible side. And then again, focus on bringing the belt onto the ball of the foot. Let the belt lengthen so that you can bring your elbows in towards the rib cage, and take both ends of the belt into your right hand to begin with. Again, firmly tuck the elbow in so that your palm starts to spin towards your face. Left hand onto the left hip. You're either keeping the left knee bent, or for some of you, walking the foot forward if that doesn't put too much strain on your left hip flexor and quad muscles. From here, let your right toes turn out first. So your right toes move to the right side, and then let the foot follow. Again, if you get fairly close to the floor, you'll want to walk your right hand along the belt, and left hand stays on top of the left hip to really firmly push that hip down into the ground. And hopefully you've got a little bit more space to open the leg out than I do, but if you don't worry. And of course, if you're still working with a bent knee, don't let that bother you. It's not an achievement to straighten your leg. And actually in Buddhism, the analogy that is given in the Four Sutta, which is the parable that sort of talks about the mindfulness, that particular sentence talks about a thatched roof. So when a roof isn't fully watertight, of course it leaks, and the same can be said for an untrained mind. And of course, when we fix the roof, which is very fitting right now because we are actually fixing our roof, which has been leaking for several years, then of course you're sort of patching up those holes and the issues that might be going on that don't allow you to choose when you want the brain to be switched on and working for you versus when you actually want to relax and for the mind to be quiet. And a lot of us, I think, at least at the beginning, think that we don't have a choice, but there is a choice, and it's really just a case of sort of developing that ability. It's a skill like any other. It just takes a little bit of time and patience, but it's probably the most worthy skill, the most helpful skill to develop in today's world. When you're ready, bend your right knee so that you can lift the foot up towards the ceiling. Again, separate that belt into both of your hands. Choose whether you'd like to work towards a straight leg with the elbows all the way on the floor, pressing the upper arms down. Or for those of you working a little bit deeper, the hands walk up the belt. Elbows might be wide. You might start to draw the leg towards yourself. But very much yogi's choice. Work with wherever you're at. Don't worry too much about copying anyone else's practice. Make it your own. Now, interestingly, again here, actually, the Buddhist philosophy very much overlaps very directly here with yoga philosophy. And in yoga, probably the book that, at least in the Western world, everybody tends to think of as the Yoga Bible is Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, which we think was either written by a guy or a group of people called Patanjali. And funnily enough, the first 3 sutras, if you're quite advanced in your or fairly close to enlightenment, shall we say, then all you need to read are the first 3 sutras, and that's enough information for you to reach enlightenment. And the second sutra says Yogascitta vritti nirodha, which is yoga is the stilling of the ripples, of the mind into ripples, I should say. So that's probably the most widely accepted translation, but there are many interpretations of it. When you're ready, we're going to take this foot to the side. So swap both ends of your belt into your left hand first. And then again, turn the elbow in, face the palm up towards you. Take your right thumb, tuck it in towards your right hip crease. Press the hip away from you before you let the foot move over towards the left side of your mat. Maybe the foot comes all the way to the floor. Maybe you're bending the knee. And if the foot is all the way down, you might like to use your belt to bring it a little bit closer. You can have your right arm out by the side, or possibly cactus arms if it's a little bit more accessible. As much as possible, allow your right shoulder to move towards the ground. Let the chest roll to the right. Maybe let your eyes follow. And then let the breath soften. Find that stillness. And let the mind come to a moment of rest. Slowly, slowly bend the right knee, lift the foot up towards the sky, release your belt. Sorry, that was quite loud. And then bend both knees so that you can plant the feet flat to the floor. Again, rest the hands on top of the belly for a moment just to feel between the left and right side any differences in the body. Maybe keep the eyes closed from here on out. Remove anything underneath your head and move it to one side. Reach your arms all the way over your head. Walk your feet forward. And then walk the feet all the way across to the left edge of the mat, maybe going past it. Hook the right ankle around the left toes. Maybe walk your shoulders a little bit further to the left side as well. And then use your left hand to pull the right arm across. Find a few moments here to breathe into the right side of the body in a banana shape, which is literally called bananasana, so banana pose. See if at this point in practice you can let the mind relax. Then gently, gently walk the shoulders into center first. Let your feet follow. And then take it to the second side. So walk the feet over to the right first. Maybe you're going past your yoga mat. Left ankle hooks across your right toes first. And then maybe the shoulders can move a little bit to the right side as well. If you're there, right hand pulls the left arm across to give you a little bit more of an opening along the left side of the body. Let your arms and legs release into the ground. Let the breath gently lengthen left side of the waist as you inhale. And slowly, slowly walk the shoulders back first. Uncross your legs to return your feet to middle of the mat. Slowly draw the knees in towards your chest. Squeeze the knees in towards yourself. Have a little rock from side to side to massage the back of the body. Reach the right arm up and overhead as you roll over to the right side. Use the left arm to support yourself there. And then pressing into the left arm, come all the way up to a comfortable seated position here. Any comfortable seat works. Bring the palms together in front of the chest. Bow the forehead towards the fingertips. Maybe plant your sankalpa, your good intention here. The light in me recognizes the light in you. Namaste, yogi. So once again, thank you so much for joining me in practice today. I hope you enjoyed the class. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you would like to share it with your friends, I hugely appreciate that. And of course, if you have questions, suggestions or feedback, pop those in the comment section down below and we can have a chat about that. And if you want to find me anywhere else, in the meantime, I will leave my social media links in the video description below. And otherwise, I hope to see you back on your yoga mat very soon, yogi. Thank you.